My reactions to Week 11 of the 2023-2024 NFL season. Starting with Thursday Night Football. Bengals Ravens beat the Bengals 34-20. Both Mark Andrews and Joe Burrow are out for the year. As much as that sucks, but the Ravens were able to get the win. Bengals looks like their season's over, but we'll see. Bengals play the Steelers on Sunday, and the Ravens play the Chargers on Sunday Night Football. The stat line for the game was Lamar Jackson had 2 touchdowns, and so did Gus Edwards. As he continues his campaign, kind of like Jamal Williams did last year for the Lions. Panthers. Cowboys beat the Panthers 33-10 as they continue to beat up on pedestrian teams. The Panthers came into the game with just one win and came out of the game with just one win. As the Cowboys, after they face the Commanders on Thursday, they play they go through a rough schedule, through a rough part of the schedule, and the Panthers play the Titans on Sunday. The stat line for this game was John Bland had a pick six, his 4th pick six of the season, which tied the record at 4 with just 6 games remaining. So he has a chance to break the record this year. That's insane. Dude's scoring more touchdowns than the whole Jets offense combined. And Dak Prescott had a pretty decent game too, scoring a touchdown, and Tony Pollard also scored a touchdown, his first touchdown of the season. And it's already week 11. So he's been having a pretty rough year. But anyways, the Cowboys play the Commanders on Thursday, and the Panthers play the Titans on Sunday.
As far as Bryce Young goes, he's having a pretty pedestrian season. But it's not all his fault. It doesn't help that C.J. Stroud is an absolute alien. So the Panthers are probably kicking themselves because they didn't draft Bryce Young when they had the first pick overall. But I'm not ready to give up on Bryce Young yet. He doesn't really have any weapons. Not to mention his offensive line isn't necessarily the best. So I give him till like his 2nd, 3rd season in the NFL to see what he really is. So like next year or the year after. But of course you got to surround him with weapons. But other than him, other than C.J. Stroud, nobody's really having a great season in terms of rookie quarterback. Will Levis's team is struggling, and Anthony Richardson's out for the year for the Colts. But anyways, on to the next game. Steelers-Browns. Browns beat the Steelers 13-10. As you can imagine, it was a low-scoring game. Steelers offense couldn't really get anything going. Jaylen Warren had a touchdown for the Steelers, and Kenny Pickett only threw for over 100 yards, 0 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. So he's going through a bit of a sophomore slump right now. Not to mention they just fired their offensive coordinator after the game. They just fired their offensive coordinator, and nobody really did anything for the Browns either. Dorian Thompson-Robinson had 0 touchdowns, 1 interception, but Jerome Ford did get a touchdown, and Dustin Hopkins scored like 2 field goals. Lions. The Lions beat the Bears 31-26 after trailing by like 12 with like 6 minutes left in the game. And as a Lions fan, I was about ready to give up on the Lions after this game. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna hide it. But they thankfully came through. Jared Goff had one of the worst games, if not the worst game he ever had as a Detroit Lion, throwing 3 interceptions. But he did bounce back towards the end of the game. So did the rest of the Lions offense, scoring 2 touchdowns. They scored like 17 points with 3 minutes left to go in the ball game. Jared Goff hit a touchdown to Jameson Williams. And then the defense forced 3 and out. Then the Lions got the ball back, scored a touchdown. David Montgomery scored a touchdown with like 30 seconds left in the game against his former team, the Bears. And then the defense and Aiden Hutchinson closed the game out, forcing them into a safety. And honestly, it was an incredible incredible comeback win for the Lions. They never should have been in that position to begin with, but it is what it is. And it's not about how you start, it's about how you finish. And what matters is, yeah, it wasn't ugly, but what matters is they won the game. As the Lions play the Packers on Thursday, and the Bears play the Vikings on Sunday. Scratch that, Monday. Next Monday. Well, technically this upcoming Monday. But either way, it's the Monday after Thanksgiving. And going back to it, the Steelers, they play the Bengals on Sunday, and the Browns play the Broncos. Packers beat the Chargers 23-20. And even though the Chargers offense only gave up 23 points, the Chargers defense, my bad, only gave up 23 points. They did give up 400 yards passing to Jordan Love, 300 yards passing to Jordan Love. The Chargers, their offense played decent. Justin Herbert had 2 touchdowns, but the receivers had a bad case of the drops in this game, as Quentin Johnston dropped a pass that would have gotten them into field goal range. And ultimately, like I said before, Brandon Staley should have been fired after he blew that lead in the playoffs. But the Spanoses are just cheap, I guess. Cardinals, Texans. Texans beat the Cardinals in a game where C.J. Stroud threw 3 interceptions. But they won the game at the end of the day because the defense stepped up big time. They have a big game against the Jaguars on Sunday, and the Cardinals play the Rams on Sunday. Chargers play the Ravens on Sunday, and the Packers play the Lions on Thursday. In Detroit, Titans, Jaguars. Trevor Lawrence had a big bounce-back game against the Titans, as he had 4 touchdowns in total, 2 on the ground, 2 through the air, both to Calvin Ridley. As he also had 7 receptions for 100 yards receiving, 103 yards receiving, to be specific. Well, Levis had 2 touchdowns, 2 for the Titans, but they ultimately got demolished by the Jaguars, 34-14. Jaguars play on Sunday in a big game against the Texans, and the Titans play the Panthers. Raiders, Dolphins. Dolphins beat the Raiders 20-13. Raiders put up a fight against the Dolphins in Miami. Aiden O'Connell had 3 interceptions for the Raiders. Well, he threw 3 interceptions for the Raiders. Jalen Ramsey had 2 of them, and Devontae Adams had a touchdown for the Raiders. Tua played pretty decent, going 28-39, throwing for over 300 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. Raheem Mostert had a decent game, going for 86 yards on the ground. And Tyreek Hill had a big game also, having over 100 yards receiving, as the Dolphins play the Jets in the first ever Friday night game, Black Friday, on Amazon Prime. And the Raiders play the Chiefs on Sunday. Commanders. Giants pretty much beat the crap out of as they pretty much own the Commanders. Tommy DeVito threw 3 touchdowns, 2 to Saquon Barkley. And for the Commanders, Sam Howell had 3 interceptions, as they lose 19-31, and the Giants win 31-19. As the Giants play the Patriots on Sunday, and the Commanders play the Cowboys on Thursday. Sunday afternoon games, Buccaneers, Niners. Niners beat the Buccaneers 27-14. Brock Purdy had a perfect passer rating of 58.3, as he is the first quarterback to do that since Joe Montana and Steve Young. But this win for the Niners came short-lived, as they also lost. They lost Talanoa Hufanga, their all-pro safety, for the rest of the season. So we'll see how that plays out for them in the secondary the rest of the season. Baker Mayfield had a decent game too, having 1 touchdown, 1 interception, but they lost at the end of the day. They play the Colts on Sunday, and the Niners play the Seahawks on Thursday. Jets, Bills.
Bills beat the Jets 32-6 as Zach Wilson got benched. About time also, as he was playing like absolute trash and was pretty much costing his team's games. But it's not all on him. I mean, we saw how Russell Wilson was playing last year with Nathaniel Hackett coaching him. Not blaming all the struggles on Zach Wilson, but at this point he is what he is. But anyways, back to the Bills. Bills had a big bounce back game against the Jets after losing to the Broncos last week. The same team that gave up 70 this season in a game. Like, how the fuck did that happen? I can't even do that in Madden. How the fuck do the Broncos do that in a single fucking game in this season? And now they're 5-5, but I'll get to them later. Josh Allen had 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. It seems like he's pretty much always been like that. Pretty much a roller coaster. He'll have his ups and downs, just like a roller coaster. And the Bills are probably thanking the Packers right now because they traded for Rizzo Douglas, who had an interception against Zach Wilson, which really isn't that hard to do. But moving on, the Bills play the Eagles on Sunday, and the Jets play the Dolphins on Friday. Rams beat the Seahawks on a last-second game-winning field goal from Matt Gay, as they won the game 17-16. Geno Smith played pretty well in this game, 22 of 34, throwing for 200-plus yards passing and 1 touchdown, which, if you look at the 1 touchdown, wasn't that impressive of a game. But let's be honest, compared to Drew Lock, it was a much better game than Drew Lock. Drew Lock threw for 3 yards, 0 touchdowns, and 1 interception. But ultimately, they weren't really able to do anything on offense. But Geno Smith did get the Seahawks into field goal range to try and kick the game-winning field goal. But Jason Myers missed the game-winning field goal. And keep in mind, he did all this after he got injured. He got injured, came back, and almost led them to the win. That's some Lamar Jackson type shit. Not really, but still. Seahawks play the Niners on Thursday, and the Rams play the Cardinals on Sunday. Broncos, Vikings. Well, technically it's Vikings-Broncos because this game was being played in Denver. Broncos beat the Vikings 21-20. As Russell Wilson didn't have a relatively good game, 27-35, throwing for 200 yards plus passing and 1 touchdown. But the Broncos defense was able to force the Vikings into turnovers, including an interception off of Dobbs as he got hit as he got rid of the football. But ultimately, the Broncos have now won the last 4 games after starting the season off 1-5, and one of those games they gave up 70 points, but somehow they turned their season around. And the Vikings they're still in prime position for a spot in the playoffs, but I don't think they're going to win the division. Broncos play the Browns on Sunday, which is another winnable game for the Broncos. And the Broncos play the Bears on Monday, the Monday after Thanksgiving. And finally, the last game of the week, one of the games of the year, Eagles-Chiefs, rematch of Super Bowl 57. Except this time the Eagles won the game. They were down by 10 points at the end of the first half and came back and won the game. Devontae Smith had a big game, almost going for 100 yards receiving in a game where A.J. Brown was pretty much shut down by the Chiefs defense. And DeAndre Swift had a pretty good game too, 76 yards rush and a touchdown. Jalen Hurts had 2 touchdowns on the ground. Mahomes had a pretty good game too, in a game where Travis Kelce was pretty much shut out in this game. But Patrick Mahomes threw for 24-43, went 24-43, threw for almost 200 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. That touchdown being to Travis Kelce, who, for the most part, like I said, other than the touchdown, Travis Kelce was pretty much shut out the game. Patrick Mahomes had the ball back, got the ball back late in the game, but was unable to get a touchdown because Marquez Valdez-Scantling couldn't hold on to the freaking football. And ultimately, that could cost the Chiefs this season, the lack of receivers that they have. And the Eagles secondary is the thing that could hold them back also. The Eagles. They could hold the Eagles back. But anyways, the Eagles play the Bills on Sunday, and the Chiefs play the Raiders on Sunday. So it should be another interesting week. We're getting to the final stretch of the season, almost at December. So we'll see how the rest of the season goes. Anyways, I'll catch y'all later. Bye.